In addition to widespread grassroots opposition to the presence of asylum seekers, politicians at the national level have also joined the fray, openly expressing anti-asylum seekers sentiment. The most vocal of these has been the member of Knesset from the ultra-right National Union Party, Michael Ben-Ari. Ben-Ari calls himself a student of Rabbi Meir Kahana, the radical right-wing demagogue who was banned from the Knesset in 1988 for his racism. I interviewed Ben-Ari at his Knesset office in August 2010. Referring to both migrant workers from Asia and to asylum seekers from Africa, Ben-Ari insisted that they should be deported out of Israel.
אז גם אני מוכן ללכת לארוז לפיליפינים את החפצים, ושיחזרו הביתה. יחזרו הביתה לפיליפינים, יש להם שם בית. יש להם שם בית. מה זה גירוש? איזה גירוש? הם שווים הביתה. כל מדינה בעולם מתוקנת הייתה עושה את זה. נהפוך להיות מדינת הגירה, אבל יש כאלה שעוינים את המדינה. ולכן הם רוצים להפוך אותה למדינת אזרחי כל העולם. נביא לפה 1,000,000 אפריקאים, 500,000 פיליפינים, 2-3 מיליון סינים, ושלום על ישראל.
Ben-Ari doesn't only incite against asylum seekers in the Knesset and in the media, he also rallies residents of Tel Aviv to publicly protest the presence of asylum seekers in their neighborhood. At a December 2011 march through the South Tel Aviv park frequented by many asylum seekers, I filmed him leading an angry crowd in chants of With the help of his parliamentary assistants and local leaders, Ben-Ari helped found a neighborhood defense posse in March 2011 that patrols neighborhoods of South Tel Aviv with high concentrations of asylum seekers. There have not been any reports of violent altercations between Ben-Ari's neighborhood defense group and local asylum seekers as of this writing, but many asylum seekers have reported being physically attacked and bullied by native Israelis. At the December 2011 anti-asylum seekers rally, Ben-Ari explained to the assembled crowd that he had channeled their street-level political activity into practical results. He recounted a recent deliberation in the Knesset to demonstrate that this is the case.
זה יגרום לנתניהו. אני רוצה לספר לכם איך נתניהו התעורר. לפני שבועיים ממש, ועדת חוץ וביטחון יושב נתניהו. אמרתי לו, אדוני ראש הממשלה, לא תעשה מתקני שהייה, יבואו לפה עוד אלפים רבים, בסוף תעשה מתקני שהייה. זה יעלה לך פי כמה וכמה. אומר נתניהו, אני לא תמיד מסכים עם בן-ארי, בזה אני מסכים איתו. אמרתי לו, תדע לך בנימין, אדוני ראש הממשלה. תדע לך, אדוני ראש הממשלה. האנשים שלך מהליכוד עוברים אליי. ראיתי שמשהו זז לו בפנים. למחרת הוא היה אצל מאיר יצחק הלוי שעושה עבודה נהדרת באילת. הלוואי ופה היו עושים עבודה כזאת. עושה עבודה נהדרת שם. לא מסכים לפתוח בתי ספר. לא נותן להם להסתובב איפה שהם רוצים. יודע איך להתנהג. עדיין יש שם גם הרבה עבודה. וביום רביעי מגיע שר ישי, אומר בכנסת, יהיה מתקני שהייה. שאלתי אותו, יש לוח זמנים? הוא לא עונה לי. אמרתי לו, אתה מוליך שולל! מיום שני לרביעי, פגשתי אותו לאחר מכן בחוץ. הוא אומר לי, השר ישי, נתניהו צרח על שטייניץ שישיג את הכסף. רבותיי, כל זה בגלל דבר אחד, כי אנחנו התעוררנו. אנחנו לא מתכוונים להירדם.
While Ben-Ari is certainly the most vocal public figure to demand the deportation of asylum seekers, he is not nearly the most powerful. Several members of the government who hold ministerial positions also speak openly of expelling asylum seekers from the country. One of these is Interior Minister Eli Yishai, leader of the ultra-Orthodox Shas party, the third largest party in the governing coalition. As Interior Minister, Yishai has final word over who is permitted to enter the country, who is granted asylum, residency, and citizenship. In October 2009, Yishai told Israel Channel 2 that asylum seekers and other foreigners from the so-called Third World must not be allowed to enter Israel, because if they are permitted to, they will infect Israelis with a whole host of diseases, both physical and societal.
אם יבוא לפה עכשיו מאות אלפי עובדים זרים, עם מחלות חצבת, שחפת, עץ, סמים, נתונים קשים שאנחנו לא יודעים אותם. האם מישהו, אחד אבל, מאזרחי מדינת ישראל, אחד, היו מוכנים שיכנסו בקצב הזה, באדישות של ממשלות ישראל, עכשיו סוף סוף אני מקווה שיהיה גדר. האם מישהו מאזרחי מדינת ישראל היה מוכן שיכנסו פה 1,000,000 או 2 או 2.5 סודנים ואריתראים ועוד לפה? האם מישהו מאזרחי מדינת ישראל היה מוכן, עם כל ההתייפיפות הזאת, לראות פה במדינת ישראל 1,000,000 או 1,500,000 זרים?
Over 2 years have passed since Yishai made those slanderous statements, smearing entire populations with blood libel. In that time, thousands of asylum seekers have entered the country, and yet no outbreaks of serious diseases have resulted from their presence. It is worth noting that these types of statements are not exceptions to the rule, but the rule itself for members of Yishai's Shas party. In October 2010, the group's spiritual leader, Ovadia Yosef, compared all non-Jewish people to donkeys who serve their masters, stating that, quote, "The sole purpose of non-Jews is to serve Jews." In July 2010, residents of South Tel Aviv convinced over 24 Tel Aviv rabbis to draft a letter explicitly calling upon Israelis not to rent apartments to asylum seekers and foreign workers. The phenomenon quickly spread to other cities across the country. In December 2010, hundreds of Israel's leading rabbis, including dozens of chief rabbis of municipalities throughout the country, who are paid from the public purse, issued a religious edict instructing Jewish people to not sell homes or even rent apartments to non-Jewish people, including asylum seekers. In the letter, the signatories explained their rationale for forbidding property sales and rentals to non-Jewish people. To justify their decision, the rabbis quote biblical passages from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verses 2 and 4. An examination of this biblical passage, which these rabbis believe is the living word of their God, reveals the context upon which they base their religious ruling. When your God Yahweh brings you to the land that you are going to inherit, he will banish other nations, and your God Yahweh will deliver them to you, and you will strike them down. Utterly destroy them, and do not sign any pacts with them, show them no mercy, and do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, and do not take their daughters for your sons, but instead do this to them: shatter their altars, and break their monuments, and chop down their goddess figures, and burn their idols, because you are a holy people to your God Yahweh. He chose you to be his special people from all the nations in the world. The letter goes on to cite another passage from the Bible to bolster its argument that Jewish people must not sell or rent to non-Jewish people. The rabbis reference the book of Numbers, chapter 33, verse 55, which is very similar in content to the first biblical reference. And Yahweh said to Moses on the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, "Tell the people of Israel, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the land, and destroy all their statues, and destroy all their images, and demolish all their altars. Drive out the inhabitants of the land, and settle there, because I have given the land to you to possess. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, then those that you permit to remain will be like thorns in your eyes, and like pricks in your sides, and they will make you miserable in the land in which you live." Again, the rabbis make reference to an explicit call to ethnically cleanse the country as if it is still in effect, and warn their constituents that to rent an apartment to a non-Jewish person is an act of hostility to their Jewish neighbors, because the Bible proclaims that any non-Jewish person present in the land will make you miserable. The rabbis sum up their letter by calling upon their followers to socially and economically boycott any person who, despite their urgent warnings, continues to rent property to non-Jewish people. Those who signed were not only chief rabbis of religious communities and West Bank settlements. The list of signatories includes the chief rabbis of many cities whose populations are overwhelmingly secular in orientation. Afula, Ashdod, Bat Yam, Carmiel, Eilat, Herzliya, Gadera, Cholon, Kiryat Gat, Kiryat Motzkin, Metula, Nahariya, Natseret, Pardes Chana, Ra'anana, Rishon LeZion, Rosh Ha'ain, Immediately after the publication of the rabbi's letter, many asylum seekers were summarily ejected from their homes without proper notice or any just cause. In the middle of the winter, the African Refugee Development Center documented that many asylum seeker families had their electrical heating and hot water services completely cut off by landlords who preferred to comply with the rabbi's letter than with legally binding rental contracts. Needless to say, as far as the ARDC is aware, none of these landlords who violated the terms of their rental agreements have suffered from any legal repercussions as a result of their actions. The rabbi's letter has clearly made it much more difficult for non-Jewish people in general, and for asylum seekers in particular, to secure housing in Israel ever since. The ARDC itself has had a hard time finding suitable office space, as several potential landlords expressly refuse to rent to an organization that supports asylum seekers. After the rabbi's letter was publicized in the Israeli media, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the religious edict at a Bible trivia contest that he attended. Since that time, he has made no public comment on the matter, nor taken any action. As of this writing, the religious edict has not been retracted and remains in effect. No disciplinary action has been taken against the rabbis for signing the letter, and the municipal chief rabbis continue to receive considerable salaries from state coffers. 6 months after the publication of the rabbi's letter, in May 2011, the Religious Services Minister announced that municipalities would increase the salaries of novice rabbis on its payroll by 250% to between 16,000 and 29,000 shekels per month, according to a report in Haaretz. The report said that veteran rabbis received monthly salaries of more than 30,000 shekels. According to Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics, the average Israeli salary for the month of October 2011, the last month for which statistics were available by the time of this writing, was 8,555 shekels. The Declaration of the Establishment of the State of Israel, the state's foundational text, explicitly declares that the country, quote, will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. In its own submission to the CERD, the state has noted that Section 144B of the Penal Law, quote, provides for a penalty of up to 5 years imprisonment for a person who publishes material with the intent to incite racism, even if ineffectual in result. No rabbis, however, have been charged under Section 144B for issuing this religious edict. By permitting them to keep their jobs and taking no disciplinary actions against them, the state has clearly neglected its duty to ensure equality for its non-Jewish inhabitants and given tacit approval for widespread racial discrimination.